Her blood was ancient and she craved it. Chapter 1. Guinevere Adana Darien. Guinevere's POV. I felt her before I heard her. Warm, too warm, like the sun had slipped into mortal form and dared to fall in front of me. Instinct moved me faster than thought. I caught her mid-fall. She was beautiful, yes, in the worldly sense, all soft skin and dark auburn curls, but that wasn't what struck me. I could hear her heartbeat. I could feel the shimmer of her soul. I could almost taste her. My name is Guinevere Adana Darien. I am an Iberian vampire, a creature carved from shadow and centuries. I have lived for a millennium and tasted the pure blood of women and men alike, kings, tyrants, lovers, monsters, but this gentle human in my arms, she was something else. I've always prided myself on one rule: never feel, just feed. But her presence stirred an emotion in me older than time, older than the first hunger. A warmth so deep it frightened me. I lowered her onto the wet grass with a reverence I thought I'd burned out of myself ages ago. Her dark auburn hair slid across her face, and my hand moved uninvited to brush it aside. Her skin was warm, soft, impossibly delicate. And I, Guinevere Adana Darien, felt an emotion so foreign it clawed at my ribs. Care, longing, the violent need to protect rather than consume. I sat beside her, eyes roaming the length of her body. Small, 5 feet at most. Sun-kissed skin. Lips parted slightly as if she were whispering secrets in her sleep. A dangerous urge rose in me to kiss her. Slowly, deeply, fully. I shot to my feet and shook my head hard. What the hell is this feeling? I muttered. I haven't felt this in God's centuries. She stirred but didn't wake. Oh, how I prayed she would open her eyes. I wanted to see their color, drown myself in it, forget the world existed. Get a grip, Guinevere, I hissed at myself, but the pull toward her grew stronger with every passing second. I knelt again, let my fingers barely graze her cheek. Electricity snapped up my arm, lighting up nerves I had thought long dead. I wanted her. No, I needed her. And that terrified me more than any blade, any fire, any hunter ever could. I leaned down, my face a breath away from hers, and inhaled. Her scent. Her blood. Her soul. Warmth flickered in my chest, impossible warmth. The sun dipped low, and the night creatures began to stir. If they found her like this, she'd be gone before the moon fully rose. That thought hit me harder than any blow I'd ever taken. Carefully, I gathered her into my arms. She was light, feather-light, yet the weight inside me was crushing. Then I moved, swift as nightfall itself. My cabin lay on the far side of the island, many miles away. Speed had never been an issue, but with her in my arms. I held back, slowed just enough so the wind wouldn't rouse her. I wasn't ready for her to wake. Not yet. Not before I understood why she made my ancient heart feel alive again. Chapter 2. Kanani Makani. Kanani's POV. Today was another hard day. One of those days where the sun feels too bright, too careless, as it dances across the tiles of my small room. Just another day of trying to get through without collapsing into a corner to sob. I own a tiny stand on the island, coconuts and sarongs for tourists and locals. But business has been dead for months. 1 or 2 coconuts a day. A sarong if the universe felt generous. Enough to scrape by, enough to keep breathing, but never enough to truly live. Despair and hopelessness became my constant companions. Quiet. Familiar. Heavy. My name is Kanani Makani. I live on a small island in Hawaii. I came here after the hurricane took everything: my home, my life, my family. In the wreckage of my father's car, I found a single saved thing, a key, with a note attached. It led me to this cabin. Their retirement dream. My last piece of them. 7 months I've been here. 7 months of trying. 7 months of breaking quietly and rebuilding poorly. Before the hurricane, I was supposed to take a sabbatical and then move to England to start my graphic design career. Now those plans feel like someone else's memories. This morning I got up slowly. Chose my white sundress with lilac flowers at the hem. Let my long auburn hair fall loose. A touch of pink lipstick. I stared at myself in the mirror for too long before finally stepping into my sandals. Then I walked. There's a spot along the mountain path where the road was closed off, where the earth split open into a gorge during the storm. That's where I went. I was tired of trying, tired of failing, tired of holding myself together with hope that never arrived. At the edge, I looked down at the sea. Waves crashing against jagged rocks far, far below. A fall from here would be final. Memories rushed through me, my mother's hands holding mine, my father's gentle voice, my childhood room. Every warmth I'd ever known. I closed my eyes and stepped forward. I felt myself fall, air tearing past me. Then darkness swept in as my consciousness slipped away. Chapter 3: The Cabin in the Dark. Kanani, POV. Darkness. A hum. The scent of rain on wood. I drift up through the fog of unconsciousness, pulled by something warm brushing my cheek. A heartbeat that isn't mine. Too slow. Too steady. Too unnatural. My eyes snap open. A cabin I've never seen before. Wooden beams. Stone hearth. A single lantern burning like a dying star in the corner. And sitting beside me. Her. Tall. Still as a statue carved from midnight. Eyes like burning coals watching me with an intensity that makes my breath catch. I jerk upright, panic exploding in my chest. Kanani, breathless whisper. Where am I? She moves slow, graceful, like the air itself parts to make room. Guinevere, low, steady. You're safe. Safe. That word doesn't fit her mouth. My pulse thunders. Her eyes flicker to my throat. And something in me knows. She isn't human. Guinevere. You fell. Her voice is velvet with edges sharp enough to cut bone. Kanani. I don't remember. A flash hits me, wind, falling, darkness swallowing me whole. My chest tightens. Pain grips my ribs. Kanani. I wasn't trying to fall. I beat. She knows I'm lying. I can feel it. Her gaze softens. Barely. Guinevere murmured. You were broken before you reached the edge. Something in her tone, ancient grief wearing a mask. Then, a sound outside. A low, guttural growl. Not human. Not animal. Guinevere stiffens. Everything in her face shifts, softness gone, replaced by cold, lethal precision. Guinevere, commanding. Stay behind me. And do not make a sound. Fear slices through me. My throat goes dry. Kanani, trembling. What was that? She steps between me and the door, body loose, predatory. Guinevere. Hunters. The word lands like thunder. Then, a claw rakes across the wooden door from the outside. Splinters fall. Another growl, closer. My heart slams against my chest. She glances at me once, and there's something raw in her eyes. Emotion. Fear. Not for herself. For me. Guinevere, low, fierce. They can smell you. My breath stutters. Kanani. Why me? Guinevere. Because you're not like the others. I blink. What does that even? Before I can finish, the door bursts inward. A shadowed figure lunges. Guinevere moves. Faster than sight. Faster than thought. A snarl tears from her throat as she slams the creature into the wall. Bones crack. Blood sprays. I freeze. Fear and awe wrestling inside me. She isn't human. She isn't safe. She isn't mine. But God's, she is beautiful in her fury. The creature dissolves into ash. Guinevere turns back to me, chest rising with cold, controlled breaths. Her eyes, dark, hungry, terrified, lock on mine. Guinevere breathing heavy. They weren't after me. She steps closer. Too close. Guinevere, whisper. They came for you. My heart stops. Chapter 4. Blood that remembers. Guinevere, POV. Silence settles after the creature's ash hits the floor, but the air is still trembling. And so am I. Not from the hunt. Not from the kill. From her. Kanani's scent curls around me, warm, sweet, electric. The same scent that dragged me across the island like a tide pulling a moon. The same soul heat that woke something in me I thought long dead. A millennium of numbness cracked in a single heartbeat. And now, she looks at me like she isn't sure whether to run or reach out. Kanani spoke softly. What was that thing? Her voice trembles, not with weakness, but with shock. Raw, honest fear. It shouldn't stir me. But my chest tightens painfully. Guinevere, soft, controlled. A scout. She swallows. A scout for what? I don't want to answer. Because I already know. Because the moment I touched her, I felt something ancient, something forbidden, sleeping in her veins. Something the night creatures would rip the world apart to get. Guinevere, hastily. We need to move. I reach for her, then stop. My fingers hover inches from her skin. If I touch her again, if I feel that impossible warmth, I may never let go. She notices the hesitation. Her brows knit. Kanani said, "You're afraid." I almost laugh. Me, a 1,000-year-old Iberian vampire. Afraid. But she's right. I'm terrified. Guinevere, quiet, low. Not for myself. Her breath catches, and for a moment the fear between us shifts into something else. Something hotter. Something I shouldn't want. A memory flickers, her falling, her heartbeat faint, her soul brushing mine like a spark thrown at old dry tinder. She burned me from the inside out without even touching me. I step back, forcing distance. Kanani. Why did they come for me? I meet her gaze, and the space between us tightens like a pulled bowstring. Guinevere. Because you carry something rare. Beat. Something they will kill you for. She goes still. Not fragile. Not helpless. Just quiet. Absorbing the truth like someone who's had life hit her hard enough times to recognize when it's changing shape again. Kanani. I'm nobody. No. That lie makes my chest ache. I cross the room before I know I've moved. My hand lifts again. I brush my fingers across her cheek, barely touching. Lightning shoots through me. Her warmth. Her soul. Her impossible, intoxicating spark. I inhale sharply. Guinevere, whisper. You are not nobody. Her lips part. My hunger, not just for blood, roars awake. I pull back before I ruin everything. Kanani. What am I? I want to tell her. I want to lie. I want to keep her close, keep her safe, keep her mine. A howl cuts through the night. Guinevere stiffens. The window shudders. Shadows move outside. More than one. Many. Guinevere. They found us. Kanani's breath trembles. Not fear, resolve. She steps closer to me without realizing it, her shoulder brushing my arm. Her warmth sinks into my cold skin like a sunrise I've been denied for centuries. My control shatters. I grab her hand, the first time I allow myself to hold her. Her pulse races under my fingers. Guinevere, fierce, ancient, absolute. Stay with me. No matter what you hear. No matter what happens. She nods. The door shakes. The night creatures circle. My fangs descend, my blood singing with violence and something softer, deeper, far more dangerous. Kanani, whispering. Why do you care what happens to me? I don't answer. I can't. Because the truth is a blade. I felt her soul long before I saw her face. And it woke the dead thing inside me that used to be my heart. Chapter 5. The night takes us. Guinevere, POV. The first window cracks. A thin line splinters across the glass like a warning etched by claws. Kanani flinches, but she doesn't run. She steps closer to me, instinct, fear, trust. I don't know. All I know is her warmth grazes my arm, and it hits me harder than the threat outside. I pull her toward the back door. Guinevere, low, urgent. We have seconds. Stay with me. Her hand slips into mine. Her pulse kicks under her skin fast, too fast, but her grip is steady. The creatures snarl outside. A chorus of hunger that echoes through the trees. I shove the door open and pull Kanani into the night. Moonlight spills across the clearing. It paints her in silver, her auburn hair glowing like a dying star. I hate that I notice, that I crave more than her safety. But I do. Damn me, I do. I move fast, faster than human eyes can track, but not fast enough to frighten her. Not tonight. Not when she's already been shattered once. The forest closes around us, a cathedral of shadow and wind. She stumbles over a root. I catch her. My hands on her waist. Her breath against my neck. Her heart a soft thunder in my ear. And again, that warmth. That impossible warmth that makes my dead body feel alive. She looks up at me, eyes wide, lips parted. Fear and something else, something dangerous, flickering between us. Kanani, you're cold. The words are barely a breath. My fingers tighten on her waist before I can stop myself. Guinevere, rough. I'm always cold. She swallows, her throat flexing, her pulse racing. Kanani. But when you touched me, you weren't. I freeze. The truth slices through me. She felt it. The warmth. The spark. The impossible. A creature howls somewhere behind us, too close. I break the moment and pull her deeper into the trees. Guinevere. We don't have time. But my voice isn't steady. It betrays everything I'm trying to bury. We run. Not the panicked scramble of prey, but a silent, disciplined escape. Branches whip past us. The night hums with danger. Kanani's breath comes in quick, shivering bursts. She's tired. She's human. She's not meant to move at this speed. I stop abruptly, lift her into my arms in one fluid motion. Kanani, startled. Wait. Guinevere. Hold on. She clutches my shoulders, her fingers digging in, and the heat of her touch sears me. I move again. Faster now. A blur through the jungle. But even with the speed, my awareness narrows to her. Her scent. Her warmth. The sound of her heartbeat leaning into mine. Her breath fans my neck, sending shivers down my spine. Real, unwanted, undeniable shivers. Kanani, soft, strained. Why are they chasing us? Guinevere, firm. Because they think you belong to them. She stiffens. Kanani. And do I? I stop. Because that question cuts too deep. I look down at her, her hair tangled by the wind, her lips flushed from fear and running, her eyes searching mine like she already knows there's something wrong, something impossible simmering between us. Guinevere, whisper. No. A beat. Guinevere, darker, almost a growl. You belong to no one. Her breath catches, not in fear. In something else. Something dangerous. Something I shouldn't be feeling back. A rustle snaps through the trees behind us. They're closing in. I pull her close to my chest, turning my back to the approaching shadows, shielding her with my body, my strength, my fangs, my ancient instinct to protect what should never matter to me. Kanani, whispering near my ear. Guinevere. I trust you. Those 3 words punch the air out of my lungs. Trust. No one has trusted me in centuries. No one has dared. I feel something inside me, old, buried, fossilized, shudder awake. I lean close, my lips brushing her temple. Guinevere, soft, lethal. You shouldn't. But gods above and monsters below. I want her to. I want her to more than I've wanted blood in 1,000 years. The creatures break into the clearing. The chase begins anew. Chapter 6. The Forest Hunt. Guinevere's POV. The air goes still. Too still. Even the wind holds its breath. I feel them before they move, their hunger radiating through the trees like heat from a wildfire. Kanani's heartbeat flutters against my back where she clings to me, her fingers locked in the fabric of my shirt. A low growl rolls through the darkness. They're here. Guinevere, low, calm, deadly. Kanani, don't run. She nods behind me even though I can feel the terror shivering through her. The first creature drops from a branch overhead. Long limbs, too many joints, pale eyes gleaming like moons. I shift her behind me, my body coiling. The creature lunges. I catch it midair by the throat, slam it into the ground hard enough to crack roots beneath us. Another leaps from the left. I twist, shielding Kanani with my body, taking the blow across my ribs. I hear the bone snap, but pain is nothing. Fear for her is everything. Kanani, whispered panic. Guinevere, your side. Guinevere, a dark smile. Broken bones bore me. I hurl the creature into a tree so hard the trunk splinters like firewood. But they don't stop. They come in waves. Snarling, clawing, lunging with the ravenous frenzy of beasts who think they're about to claim a prize. I move faster. Faster than I have in centuries. My body ripping through shadows, my hands closing around throats, skulls, limbs. Breaking, twisting, crushing. But they adapt. They learn. One slips around my blind side. It races toward Kanani. I see red. Ancient red. The kind of rage that once leveled kingdoms. I roar, a sound so primal it silences the forest. I'm on the creature before it reaches her, my fangs sinking so deep into its neck I taste the metallic rot of its blood. I rip it apart, toss what remains into the bushes like trash. When I turn back, Kanani is staring at me. Not in terror. In awe. In something far more dangerous. Her lips part. Her breath trembles. Her eyes reflect the moon and me. I take one step toward her. The forest goes quiet. Kanani soft. Your eyes, they changed. She steps closer. Close enough that her warmth brushes my chest. Her fingers hover near my jaw. And God's help me. I lean in. Her touch lands gently, shakingly, against my cheek. A human hand. On a creature like me. And I feel heat. Alive. Awakened. My throat tightens. My fangs retract instinctively. Guinevere, rough whisper. You shouldn't look at me like that. Kanani. Like what? I can't answer. Because another sound cuts through the clearing. A chorus of growls, dozens this time. The last wave. The real threat. I grab her hand. Guinevere. Stay behind me. No matter what. She nods, but her fingers tighten. Kanani. I trust you. Those 3 words again. They slay me. The creatures break from the tree lean. I bare my fangs not out of hunger, but because if they touch her, I'll become every nightmare they whisper about in the old world. I step forward. This time I don't hold back. Blood, moonlight, Guinevere unleashed. But still holding the ancient power deep inside. Waiting. Chapter 7. The Confession Etch. Guinevere's POV. The forest is miles behind us now. Kanani sits on one of the cracked stone benches, her dress torn, her breathing uneven, her hair wild around her face like a flame that refuses to die. I stand opposite her. Too far. Not far enough. My hands are covered in blood, not hers, but I haven't cleaned them. Part of me doesn't trust myself. Her eyes track every movement I make. Kanani. Guinevere, what are you? The question lands softly. No accusation. Just raw, shaking curiosity. I exhale slowly. Guinevere. A monster. She stands. Kanani. You don't act like one. My laugh is bitter, too sharp. Guinevere. You saw what I did. You saw what I am capable of. Kanani. I saw you protect me. She steps closer. My back hits a pillar. Damn it. She's too close. Too warm. Too alive. Her scent curls around me like silk, plumeria, salt, sunlight, heartbreak. My fangs threaten to descend. I turn my head away sharply. Guinevere, strained. Don't come closer. Her hand lifts. Touches my chin. Slow. Soft. Intentional. I shudder. Because she has no idea what she's doing to me. Kanani, gentle. Guinevere, look at me. I do. And it's a mistake. Her eyes drown me. Her pulse rushes in my ears. Something ancient, buried, sealed in chains inside my chest. Strains against its bindings. Kanani, barely a breath. You saved my life. You carried me. You fought for me. You. Guinevere, voice cracking. Because I couldn't lose you. The truth slips out like blood from a wound. Kanani's breath catches. Kanani. Why? I close my eyes. My forehead leans toward hers, stopping just short of touching. Guinevere, whisper. I don't know. And that terrifies me. She reaches up. Her fingers brush the corner of my lip, where a faint smear of crimson remains. Her touch sends fire through my entire body. Her voice trembles. Kanani, do you want to hurt me? Or kiss me? My control snaps so hard it nearly breaks the world. I brace both hands against the pillar behind me, refusing to touch her, refusing to lose myself. My voice is low, shaking with hunger and something too tender to name. Guinevere. Yes. She inhales sharply. I force my eyes open. Stare into hers. Guinevere, ragged. I want both. And that is the most dangerous truth of all. Her lips part. Her heartbeat stutters. And my restraint hangs by a single, fraying thread. The edge between devouring and loving grows razor-thin. Ancient power stirs quietly, waiting for its moment. Later. Chapter 8. Embers in a Wooden Cage. Guinevere's POV. The rain came like a warning, sheets of silver hammering the forest roof, drumming against the walls of my cabin like impatient fists. Fitting. The night had been taunting me since the moment she whispered, "Could you stay close?" Close. Gods help me. She stood across the room wrapped in one of my old shirts, black, soft, hanging off her frame like sin barely caught in cloth. The collar slid off her shoulder, exposing a line of warm skin that pulsed like a siren to every dark instinct inside me. I turned away too quickly, nearly tearing the wooden ladle in half in my grip. "I can handle the storm," she said softly, voice trembling with fatigue, but not fear. And that startled me more than her fall, more than the scent of her blood, more than the way she'd murmured my name in her sleep as though she'd known me before she was born. She wasn't afraid of me. I was. She approached, steps gentle on the old floorboards. "You're pacing," she said, as though we were discussing spilled tea instead of the explosive hunger clawing up my spine. I forced stillness into my limbs. "Pacing implies nervousness," I replied. "I do not get nervous." She tilted her head. "Then what do you call this?" Her fingertips brushed my forearm, featherlight, barely a whisper. And I nearly fell apart. Heat shot through me in a violent, uncontrolled surge. My fangs pressed against my gums. My vision sharpened until every detail of her was too much. The pulse beneath her jaw, the softness of her lips, the rise and fall of her breath. I stepped back. Too fast. Too sharp. Her eyes widened. "Guinevere." Her voice cracked something deep inside me. "I am dangerous," I said, harsher than intended. "Being near me when I am like this, when I can smell your blood still singing through your veins, is not wise." "And yet," she whispered, stepping closer, "you haven't touched me. Not once. Except to save me." Rain crashed harder outside. The room felt smaller. Narrower. Like a coffin with a heartbeat inside. "I don't want to be saved," she added, eyes glistening, "unless it's you saving me." I closed my eyes. This human, this impossible, maddening human. She pushed every boundary I had. Every instinct. Every rule of survival. "Kanani," I warned, voice lowering to a velvet threat, "I am not what you think. I am holding myself together by threads so thin they could snap if you breathe too deeply." "Then let them snap," she whispered. "Gods." She didn't understand. I pinned her gently but firmly against the cabin wall before I could stop myself, my hands braced on either side of her, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from my skin. Her breath hitched. Good. Fear would keep her alive. But there was no fear. Only trust. Only heat. Only the spark of something dangerous reflecting in her wide amber eyes. "You don't know what you're asking," I growled softly. She rose onto her toes, closing that last fraction of forbidden space. "Then show me." The words detonated inside me. I dropped my head, inhaling the scent of her neck, salt, warmth, sorrow, hope, everything I'd forgotten the world could contain. My lips hovered over her pulse, close enough to taste the air above her skin. Close enough to destroy her. Close enough to worship her. My voice was a broken thing, scraped from the edge of self-control. "Kanani, if I lose control, there will be no turning back." Her hand lifted, trembling, and cupped my cheek. Maybe I don't want to turn back. Something inside me snarled. Something else fell to its knees. And in that fragile, violent, exquisite moment, I realized something terrifying. The hunger wasn't the danger. She was. Chapter 9. The Howl Beneath Her Skin. Guinevere's POV. I tore myself away from her. Not gently. Not gracefully. Like a starving animal ripping free of a trap before it devours the hand that freed it. 1 second her warmth was pressed against the wall beneath my trembling shadow. The next, I was a blur through the cabin door and out into the storm, slamming it behind me so hard the old frame shrieked. The rain hit me like 1,000 knives. Cold. Violent. Not enough. Nothing would be enough. Damn you, Kanani, I rasped, stumbling into the forest. Damn your eyes. Your scent. Damn the warmth you put back into my dead bones. My hands clawed at the soil, at the roots, at the stones, anything to keep me grounded as the wildfire howled inside me. My fangs extended fully, painfully. My veins burned like molten iron. I braced myself against a tree, fingers digging into the bark so hard it splintered like brittle bone. Then came the scream. It ripped out of me raw, furious, ancient. A sound that hadn't left my lungs in centuries. It shook the rain from the leaves. It startled the birds from their nests. It cracked through the night like the earth itself was in pain. I dropped to my knees, hands sinking into the mud. Control, control. I whispered the word like a prayer to a god who had long abandoned me. My vision pulsed, crimson, black crimson. Every beat of Kanani's heart echoed in my skull, though she was far behind me. I heard her whisper my name from memory. I felt the ghost of her fingers on my cheek. The scent of her pulsed in me like a drug designed to break immortals. Another scream tore out of my throat, sharper, louder, darker. And then, the claws came. Not metaphorical. Not imagined. My own. Black, curved, ancient claws erupting from my fingertips as the monster beneath my skin surged forward, furious at being denied the feast it wanted. I slammed them into the tree beside me, carving deep gouges that hissed with the rain. Bark flew in strips. Wood cracked. Thunder answered. Not her, I growled to the storm. Not her. But the hunger hissed back, cruel and truthful. Then someone else. I staggered deeper into the forest, moving like a beast half-born. Every breath burned. Every sound sharpened. And then I heard it. Soft. Fragile. Too close. Footsteps. Human. A wanderer, maybe. A late hiker. Someone who shouldn't have been out here in a storm like this. A heartbeat, bright and oblivious, thudded through the trees, and the hunger inside me lunged like a creature freed from a cellar. I tried to pull back. I failed. I shot forward, a dark streak through the rain, eyes glowing molten, fangs bared, claws poised. The human turned just in time to see a shadow leap toward them. My voice wasn't human when I snarled. Run. But they didn't. They froze. They made the fatal mistake of meeting my eyes. And then the attack came. Fast. Silent. I hit them hard, pinning them to the soaked forest floor. My claws sank into the ground on either side of their head, avoiding their body by a hair's breadth. The scent of their fear hit me like a wave. I lowered my face to their throat, fangs grazing their pulse. And for a single breath, the world turned red. One bite. One taste. One moment of weakness. And Kanani's face flashed through my mind. Her warmth. Her trust. Her voice trembling when she whispered, "Maybe I don't want to turn back." I roared a guttural, violent refusal and shoved myself off the human, stumbling back against a tree to put distance between us. The human scrambled away, sobbing, sprinting into the rain-soaked darkness. I fell to my knees again, claws embedded in the earth, shaking. I had come this close to killing a stranger because I couldn't touch the woman I wanted. Because she made me feel alive. Because she made me dangerous again. The storm swallowed my final scream, a sound full of rage, grief, and a desperate, impossible truth. Kanani Makani was going to be the death of me. Or the salvation I never believed I deserved. Chapter 10, Where the Wild Ones Hunt. Kanani's POV. The storm had teeth. Rain hammered the cabin roof like 1,000 fists, and the wind curled around the windows as if trying to find a way in. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the blanket, heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. Something felt wrong. Too wrong. The air was colder since Guinevere left. Heavier. Like a shadow had slipped inside the room with me. A shiver crawled up my spine. Guinevere. My voice was small, but the silence that answered felt massive. Then, a scream. Not human. Not animal. Not anything that belonged to this world. It rose from the forest like the earth itself was in agony. I leapt up, barefoot, stumbling to the door. My hand hovered over the handle as fear and instinct wrestled in my chest. The door burst open before I could decide. Guinevere stood there. Drenched. Panting. Her hair wild, her clothes torn, her eyes. Oh God. Her eyes. They glowed like molten embers in the dark, bright and feral, locked onto me with a hunger so intense I staggered back. Gyne. Her hand slammed against the door frame beside my head, stopping me mid-word. Don't. Her voice was deeper, strained, trembling like it took everything in her not to take another step toward me. But what terrified me most wasn't her fangs, or the claws half-formed at her fingertips. It was the fear in her eyes. Pure, shaking fear. For you, she rasped. I'm terrified for you. Before I could make sense of that, the world behind her exploded into motion. A blur. A hiss. A flash of white fangs. Something tackled her from behind, knocking her off the porch and into the mud with a sickening thud. Guinevere. I screamed her name as two figures writhed in the storm, shadows twisting, claws carving the ground, the sound of bone meeting bone echoing through the rain. Guinevere snarled, not elegantly, not controlled, but like a creature born from nightmares and old gods. The attacker was another vampire. Pure feral. Faster than lightning. Its eyes flickered pale and wild, veins blackened, hunger dripping off it like rot. It lunged for Guinevere's throat. She caught it mid-strike, fingers digging into its jaw with supernatural strength. They crashed into a tree, splintering it clean in half. I stumbled off the porch, heart exploding in panic. The other vampire recovered instantly, launching again, claws slashing across Guinevere's shoulder, blood, dark and thick, sprayed against the rain. Guinevere roared, grabbed the creature by the hair, and slammed it into the ground so hard the earth cracked. You come to my island. She snarled, pinning it with her knee. You hunt what's mine. Yours? The creature spat, laughing through broken teeth. Guinevere froze. A fraction of a second. Barely noticeable. But the creature used it. It rolled, twisting, driving its claws into her ribs. Guinevere gasped, her eyes going wide with pain. Something snapped in me. Not mind. Not sanity. Something deeper. Get away from her. I grabbed the closest thing, a fallen branch, and swung it with everything I had. It cracked across the creature's face. Not enough to kill it. Not even enough to really hurt it. But enough to distract it. Guinevere surged forward with a sound that ripped the breath from my lungs, a roar born from 1,000 years of violence and love, and something far beyond human understanding. She struck fast, claws sinking into the creature's chest. Fangs flashing. Eyes burning with murderous promise. They grappled, rolling through the mud, two storms colliding. Guinevere threw the vampire off her with a burst of strength that made the air itself recoil. It scrambled to its feet and hissed at me, feral eyes locking onto my throat. Guinevere moved before I could even inhale. She appeared between us in a blink, her arm outstretched, claws pressed to the creature's neck. You touch her, she growled, voice vibrating like thunder born inside a volcano, and I will tear your spine out through your damned mouth. The vampire laughed, bloody and deranged. She smells like sunrise, it hissed. Like something ancient, something forbidden. No wonder you're losing control. Guinevere's snarl could have frozen hell. She attacked. Not like before, not out of hunger or rage toward herself, but with a lethal, breathtaking precision. A warrior. A monster. A protector. The fight turned brutal, bone cracking, mud flying, rain turning everything into a smear of shadows and violence. Guinevere moved like a storm unbound. Duck. Slash. Twist. Break. Her claws ripped across the creature's chest. Its fangs snapped a breath from her throat. They crashed against the rocks by the tree line, lightning catching the sheen of blood on their skin. Then Guinevere caught its jaw. Twisted. And everything went silent. The creature dropped like a puppet with its strings cut, lifeless in the mud. Rain washed the blood from Guinevere's fingers as she stood over it, chest heaving, eyes still burning feral red. Slowly, trembling, she turned to me. And in that moment, seeing her soaked, bruised, bloodied, barely holding herself together, something inside me cracked wide open. Not fear. Not revulsion. Heartbreak. She was fighting the whole world alone. Kanani. Her voice broke on my name. She took a single step toward me and collapsed to her knees. I ran to her, catching her face in my hands. "Guinevere, look at me. Please, look at me." She did. And God help me, she looked at me like I was both her salvation and her damnation. Chapter 11, After the Storm. Kanani's POV. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. The rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with the smell of wet earth and iron. I helped her to the cabin, each step slow, careful. Her movements were deliberate, graceful even in exhaustion, but the way she held herself, a predator barely restrained, made my pulse hammer in my chest. Inside, I lit a small fire in the hearth. Its light flickered across the cabin, casting Guinevere's sharp, bloody silhouette into gold and shadow. She sat on the edge of the bed, still damp, still trembling, every muscle taut, claws half-formed and fangs flashing every time she exhaled. "I shouldn't," she began, voice low, hoarse. "I shouldn't have." I stepped closer, ignoring the warning pulse thrumming through the air. My hands hovered near hers, not touching yet. "You did what you had to," I whispered. Her eyes met mine, glowing faintly in the firelight, feral and unyielding. I swallowed. "You nearly killed someone. That wasn't her. That wasn't us. That was you." She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "That's always me, Kanani. The part you don't see. The hunger. The monster. The fury. Every part of me that is old enough to remember the first scream the world ever made." Her voice cracked, low and dangerous, a growl and a whisper entwined. I stepped closer. Closer than I should have, closer than anyone should, and I touched her arm. She flinched, just slightly. But I didn't pull away. "You're alive. You're here. I swallowed hard. You're bleeding and shaking, and you're mine. Do you hear me? You're mine." Her eyes softened. A fraction. The first crack in her armor since I met her. She let out a low groan, leaning back just slightly, trying to wrestle herself under control. "I can't. Kanani. I can't." I leaned in closer, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. The tip of my fingers barely grazed her cheek, and the shiver that ran through her body lit a fire that threatened to engulf us both. "You don't have to. Not yet. Not ever." "I can handle it," I said softly, voice a promise, a threat, a prayer all at once. Her head dropped forward slightly, and I saw the struggle, the hunger, the need, the fire clawing up from inside her chest like molten iron. I knew then that she was burning, and she couldn't let herself burn near me, not yet. "I smell you," she rasped, voice trembling with want and restraint. "Every part of you. The heat, the blood, your heartbeat." Her eyes snapped up to mine, wild, feral, and terrifyingly intimate. "You could have died out there," I said. "I almost did," she whispered. And then, barely audible, "and I would have loved every second of it." I swallowed. Heat bloomed in my chest. Desire, fear, and awe all colliding. I stepped closer until there was no space between us. Her lips hovered over mine, close enough to taste, close enough to kill. And she trembled. I could feel it. Every line of tension in her body, the war between restraint and surrender, the fire that had consumed half the forest tonight, still alive in her chest. "Guinevere," I whispered. "You're not alone. Not now. Not ever. You don't have to fight this alone." She closed her eyes for a fraction, leaning just slightly into me, and I felt the weight of centuries of hunger, fury, and longing press against the fragile thread holding us both together. Then a low growl, hers. A warning, a confession, a shiver. I tilted my head, almost daring, almost asking. "Let me," I whispered. Her fangs descended, her claws flexed, but she didn't strike. Not yet. She let the fire within her burn, just close enough to scorch me, just enough to make me ache. I leaned closer, brushing my lips against her forehead, tasting the rain, the blood, the storm in her. She shuddered, a tremor that ran through both of us. The storm outside had passed, but the one between us, the wildfire, the rage, the hunger, the desire, was only just beginning. And I wouldn't back down. She wouldn't either. Not ever. The night stretched, silent but for our shallow breaths, the crackling fire, and the hum of the forest still recovering from the chaos we left behind. A promise hung in the air. This was only the beginning. Chapter 12, When the Blood Roars. Guinevere's POV. The night was alive, and it smelled of fire, rain, and iron. I knew they were coming before I saw them. Shadows stretching across the jagged forest edge, eyes gleaming like pale moons. A dozen vampires, feral, relentless, hungry for the taste of blood I would not give them. "Stay behind me," I whispered, voice low, sharp, dangerous. Kanani didn't move. Her eyes burned with something I hadn't seen before. Fear, yes, but something else. Something ancient buried in her blood, coiled and waiting. The first vampire lunged. Fangs bared, claws slicing the air. I met it mid-leap, twisting in a blur, ripping with claws that could tear stone, teeth flashing. The forest became a storm of motion, of snarls, of blood misting in the firelight and rain. Kanani stepped closer, her hands trembling at first, but there was a crack in her fear, something raw and powerful awakening inside her. A second vampire came for me. I caught it, slammed it into a tree, hearing ribs shatter. But the numbers didn't stop. More lunged, more roared. Kanani screamed, and the sound was wrong. Not human. Not fully human. Something older than the world itself, something tied to the bones of the island, vibrated in that scream. I turned toward her. Her hands rose. Her eyes glowed amber. Veins pulsing, a fire igniting in her chest that I could feel through the rain, through the storm, through the pounding heartbeat in my own chest. "Kanani, what?" She didn't wait for me. The forest exploded. Trees groaned and cracked as a shockwave of light and heat erupted from her. Vines twisted. Rocks shattered. Rain turned into fire as she let her ancient power spill, raw and uncontained. The vampires screamed, pale faces twisted in agony, bodies thrown backward by the force, limbs breaking like twigs under a storm. I didn't hesitate. I leapt into the chaos, moving like the predator I had always been, fangs flashing, claws ripping, and felt her power beside mine, feeding my own fury. Together, we became a storm. Lightning in her fists. Thunder in my claws. Every vampire that lunged, every shadow that sought to bite, fell beneath the hurricane of our rage. She turned her eyes toward me, amber, molten, fierce. "I will not let them touch you," she shouted. Her voice was an earthquake. Her power surged, ripping the ground, tearing roots from the earth, sending mud and fire swirling into the air. I caught a vampire mid-leap and hurled it into the inferno of her making. I could feel her heartbeat in mine, wild, fast, alive. She was not just defending me, she was claiming herself, claiming her power, claiming the blood that flowed in her veins. I roared, a sound older than death, older than pain, older than hunger, and together we moved as one. The storm followed us, obeying her will, as if the island itself had risen to fight by our side. When the last vampire fell, torn, broken, howling, silence dropped like a guillotine. Kanani staggered, exhausted but unbroken. I caught her, holding her close. Rain washed over us, but it could not quench the fire that burned in her, in me, in us. "Guinevere," she whispered, voice trembling, raw and alive. You were with me." "I am always with you," I said, voice hoarse, fangs flashing in a small, feral grin. "You made me see how far we could go. How far I would go for you." She rested her forehead against mine. Her hands still glowed faintly with the remnants of her power. I could feel it, the island trembling beneath us, a warning that the world had shifted. And in that moment, I realized we weren't just survivors. We weren't just predator and human. We were something new, something terrifying, something unstoppable. And the night, the entire world, would never forget us. Chapter 13, The Ashes of Power. Kanani's POV. The island was quiet. Too quiet. Trees were splintered like shattered bones. The forest floor was churned into mud, roots twisted into grotesque shapes, and the scent of rain, blood, and ozone clung to everything. Smoke curled from smoldering patches where lightning had struck during my power surge. I stumbled through the wreckage, every step heavy, as if the very ground was judging me. Guinevere followed, her movements still sharp, predatory, but tempered now, her claws retracted, her fangs just behind her teeth. Her eyes glimmered with a soft amber, a glow fading like dying embers. "You did that," I whispered, voice shaking. "All of that, you." I stopped. Words failed me. The scale of what had happened was beyond understanding. I looked at my own hands and felt it. The heat. The energy. It hummed beneath my skin, waiting, pulsing, dangerous. Something ancient, something I had never known lived in my blood. Guinevere's eyes met mine, searching, cautious. "You felt it, didn't you?" she said softly, her voice a tether against the chaos in my mind. "The power, it's in you. You've always had it. I just brought it out." I don't understand," I said. My voice was trembling, weak and full of awe. "I didn't know I could do that. I nearly destroyed everything. Everyone." She reached out, tilting my chin up with a hand that was firm, grounding. Her thumb brushed against my cheek, wiping a smear of mud. "You didn't destroy," she said. "You protected. You saved me. And anyone else who tried to come after us." That was raw, untamed power. It's dangerous, yes, but it's also beautiful. That strength, it's yours, Kanani. I pulled in a shaky breath. My heart, still human, still mine, was racing. I could feel it echoing in my veins, mixing with something else, something old, something primal. A rhythm that matched hers. But how do I control it? I asked, fear lacing the awe in my voice. What if it happens again? What if I hurt someone I don't mean to? Guinevere stepped closer, eyes glimmering with centuries of wisdom and caution. You don't learn to control fire by hiding from it. You learn by touching it, by feeling it, by letting it burn, then letting it guide you instead of consuming you. I swallowed, nodding slowly, the enormity of it pressing down on me. This wasn't a gift. It was a responsibility, a dangerous one, but one I felt I could bear, because she had faith in me. I looked around at the island, scarred, battered, alive. The world was different now. Nothing would ever be the same. "You're amazing," I said quietly. "And terrifying. Anne, I'm scared." Her lips curved in a faint smile, ghosting close to my ear. "Good. Fear keeps you alive. Hunger keeps you dangerous. And love," she trailed off, letting the word hang between us, heavy and molten. "Love keeps you human, Kanani. Even in the middle of all this chaos." I let her hand wrap around mine, feeling the heat, the pulse, the steady presence of her. For the first time since the night began, I felt something else besides fear and awe. Something steady. Something mine. And beneath the shadows of the ruined forest, beneath the scars left by our unleashed powers, I realized I was no longer just a survivor. I was a force to be reckoned with. And I would fight. For her. With her. Always. Chapter 14. The Spark Between Shadows. Guinevere's POV. The cabin was quiet now. Not the heavy, oppressive quiet of danger, but a fragile, trembling silence, like the calm after a hurricane. I could hear her. Not the pounding of her heart like before, the raw, terrifying surge of power, but the soft, steady thrum that only belonged to her. Kanani. She was seated across from me, legs pulled close, shoulders tense, but her gaze was a flame licking across my skin, burning through every century-honed restraint. I tried to look away, tried to remind myself of the rules I had lived by for 1,000 years. Predator, hunter, never care, never let it consume you. But the second she tilted her head and caught my eyes, I fell into the pull I had felt since the moment she tumbled into my arms in the forest. The pull that had been growing, wild and desperate, every night since. Her lips parted slightly. Her breath fogged in the cool cabin air. "I never thought I could feel like this," she whispered. Her voice was rough, honest, trembling with a kind of wonder I hadn't expected from a human. I took a step toward her, slow, deliberate. Every nerve in me screamed in warning and anticipation. My hand hovered near hers, not yet touching, but drawn as if by magnetism. "Kanani," I breathed. "You don't know what you do to me." Her eyes darkened. Desire, fear, awe, and something ancient flickering beneath. Her hand reached out, a tentative brush against my wrist, and it was like the strike of lightning, sudden and scorching. I feel it too, she said. Her fingers curled slightly around mine, grounding me, igniting me. I feel everything when I'm near you. My blood, my power, my heart. I've never. Her words cut off as I leaned closer. My fangs were hidden, my claws retracted, but my body, my entire being, was alive with longing. She shivered, and I took the final step. The space between us vanished. Our breaths mingled. Her pulse thudded against my chest. The fire in her veins sang through mine. And then I let myself fall. I pressed my lips to hers. Soft at first, tasting, testing, feeling. Her lips responded immediately, trembling, wet, warm. A whisper of fire against the cold, a collision of everything we had denied ourselves. The kiss deepened. My fangs brushed her bottom lip. She gasped, but did not pull away. Her hands clutched my shoulders, nails digging just enough to leave a trail, marking the territory we were both too scared, too alive, to claim outright. The cabin seemed to vanish around us. The rain against the windows, the charred forest outside, the ghosts of what had happened hours before, all of it disappeared. It was just us. Fire and blood and breath and desire, consuming, unrelenting, urgent. I pressed closer, one hand cupping her jaw, the other tracing the line of her spine, pulling her impossibly closer. Her tongue brushed mine, hesitant, exploring, testing the fire between us. A gasp, then a moan, and suddenly the restraint shattered completely. We kissed like the world was ending, like the universe had conspired to bring centuries of loneliness, fury, and longing into one explosive moment. I felt her heartbeat race against mine, felt her power tangle with mine, and a low growl rumbled from deep in my chest. "Kanani," I whispered against her lips. "You're mine. And I'm yours." She let out a shaky laugh, muffled against my mouth, and whispered back, "I never want to be anything else." The fire inside us roared, and in that kiss I knew. Whatever came next, whatever enemies, whatever ancient horrors, we would face it together. Because no force on this earth could break what had finally ignited between us. Chapter 15. The Choice of Shadows. Guinevere's POV. The night was almost too still. Even the forest, scarred and battered from our unleashed fury, seemed to hold its breath. I could feel her beside me, Kanani, her heartbeat steady, but her soul trembling in a way that mirrored my own. Tomorrow, everything would change. The council would arrive at dawn. The ancient vampire council, centuries old, merciless, all-seeing. They had rules older than time, decrees carved into the marrow of the world itself. And they were coming to test us. To see if I would claim her. Claim Kanani Makani. The word weighed on me like a blade pressed to my chest. If I did, she would never be the same again. My world would envelop hers, pull her into a darkness she had never known, a hunger she might not survive. She would be mine, body, blood, soul, bound for eternity. But if I didn't, the council would take her. God knew what they would do. Torture, imprisonment, consumption, whatever their cruelty deemed fitting. I could not let that happen. I could not. I felt the heat of her hand brushing mine, tentative but sure. Her eyes, wide and unafraid, met mine. "Gwen," she whispered. Her voice was soft, trembling, fragile, and yet fierce. "Whatever you decide. I trust you." I swallowed. The centuries of control I had honed, the predator instinct to never feel, shattered in her gaze. I leaned closer, our foreheads touching. I could feel her warmth, her heartbeat, her soul, all fragile and impossibly human against the weight of my eternity. "Kanani," I murmured, voice low, hoarse with desire and fear. "If I claim you, you'll never be safe. You'll never be the same again." She tilted her head, brushing her lips against mine in the faintest, ghost-like kiss. "I know. But I'd rather burn with you than live without you." My throat tightened. My claws itched, my fangs ached to taste, to claim, but this was more than hunger. This was love, older than anything I had known. Fear, devotion, need, protection all tangled together, burning like wildfire beneath my skin. I held her closer. My hands shook as I traced the line of her jaw, the curve of her neck, memorizing every inch of her warmth I could. I can't promise it won't hurt, I whispered. That it won't change you forever. But I can promise you this, I will protect you. I will guard you. I will never let anyone touch you, not while I breathe. Her lips curved into a faint, trembling smile. I don't need promises. I need you. Only you. The night stretched between us, heavy, fragile, intimate. Every heartbeat, every breath, was a countdown to the dawn. The council would come. They would watch. They would judge. And I would have to decide. To claim her. Or lose her forever. I pressed my lips to hers again, slow, lingering, tasting the sweetness, the fire, the life that belonged only to her. She shivered, and I felt it, the thread between us, fragile but unbreakable. I don't care what happens tomorrow, I whispered against her lips. I only care about you. Her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. And I only care about you. The wind outside moaned through the broken branches, carrying the scent of rain and blood and something older, darker. The world was holding its breath. And so was I. Tomorrow, the council would decide. Tomorrow, everything could be lost. But tonight was ours. And I would hold her like that until the dawn, until the choice had to be made, until fire and desire and destiny collided with the sharp edge of fate itself. Chapter 16. Dawn of Decision. Guinevere's POV. The first light of dawn broke across the island, pale and hesitant, casting the charred forest and battered cliffs in shades of silver and gray. I could feel it before I saw them. The air shifted. The shadows lengthened unnaturally. Movement among the trees that wasn't human. The council had arrived. 8 figures, older than memory, taller than fear, their eyes glinting like shards of obsidian. Their presence pressed against me, ancient and unyielding. The ground seemed to shiver under their weight, the wind itself holding its breath. Guinevere Adana Darien, the first spoke, voice like stone grinding against bone. You have been summoned to make your claim. I stood with Kanani at my side, her hand in mine, her pulse wild, her gaze unflinching. She was the reason I had survived the storm of our unleashed power, the reason I had even considered risking everything. You understand, another intoned, that if you do not claim her, she becomes property of the council. You will lose her forever. Every word was a knife, twisting in my chest. To claim her meant to change her, to draw her into my world, to bind her forever to the hunger and fire of my existence. Not to claim her meant. I couldn't bear to imagine it. I turned to Kanani. Her eyes met mine, unafraid, bright, alive, despite everything. I choose you, I said, voice low, raw, trembling with centuries of fear and desire. The council's eyes narrowed. Whispers passed between them, like wind over gravestones. But they did not move to intervene. They were watching, waiting, judging. I stepped closer to Kanani. Every nerve, every instinct screamed in warning, in anticipation, in longing. I felt the pull, the hunger, the fire, the connection that had been growing since the first moment I touched her, since the first time her heartbeat sang through my centuries of silence. Do you accept? I asked her, voice soft, almost breaking. She smiled, fragile, trembling, and nodded. I do. I've always wanted this. I pressed my lips to hers, a kiss that carried a century of restraint, a wildfire of desire, a promise of protection. The council watched in silence as I felt the weight of eternity settle around us, binding us, claiming us in a way that nothing could undo. The ground shivered. The wind whistled through the broken trees. Power, ancient and raw, surged in response to our union. I could feel Kanani's strength mingling with mine, the echo of her power still unfamiliar, still dangerous, but hers. You have made your choice, the eldest finally said. And with it, you have bound her. There is no turning back. I held her closer. I don't care, I whispered. I would rather burn with her than survive without her. Kanani's laugh, low and breathless, trembled against my chest. And I will burn with you. The council's presence began to fade, a ripple of shadows withdrawing into the ancient forest. Their judgment passed, but the weight of what we had done, what we had chosen, lingered, a pulse beneath our skin, a tether between our souls. I looked into her eyes, amber and alive, and I knew the storm had not ended. It had only begun. And together, we would face whatever came next. Chapter 17. The Claim of Fire. Kanani's POV. I felt her before I felt anything else. Her presence, immense and impossible, a shadow and a flame behind me. Every fiber of my being knew she was there, not just near, but within reach, within me, part of the air I breathed, the blood I carried, the fire in my veins. I shivered as her hand brushed the nape of my neck. Warm, impossibly alive. I tilted my head, instinctive, giving her access, and my breath hitched. Her lips were near, her fangs a whisper from my skin. I felt her heartbeat, the pulse of her power, the weight of centuries of restraint, and the hunger I had seen in her eyes finally released. Then it happened, a prick, sharp and sweet, and I fell. Euphoria unlike anything I had ever known consumed me. It wasn't pain, it wasn't fear, it was surrender, it was fire, it was pure energy coursing through every vein, igniting every nerve, unraveling every limit of my humanity and my ancient power alike. Guinevere's hands were everywhere, gentle, demanding, protective, claiming, but she did not change me. She did not consume me. She did not make me hers in the way the council had warned. Instead, she melted herself into me. Our powers, our blood, our very essences wove together. I felt my own ancient energy, the untamed force that had roared inside me since birth, entwine with her millennia of refined strength and fury. We became something else entirely. A hybrid of blood and fire and love and darkness. Impossible. Unstoppable. Whole. I gasped, my hands clutching her shoulders as I felt the last threads of fear, of restraint, of old loneliness dissolve. Her lips finally met mine, not just a kiss, but an eruption, a thunderclap in the cabin, a fusion of heat, hunger, and eternity. I could feel her power in me, my power in her. Every touch, every pulse of breath, every heartbeat was a spark and a storm, a new existence that belonged to both of us and no one else. I moaned, half scream, half laugh, as the world around us blurred into nothing. The cabin walls, the broken trees outside, the island itself, all faded into the background. All that existed was her and me, and the impossible force we had become together. When it was over, though I knew it would never truly be over, I sank against her, exhausted, trembling, laughing, and crying all at once. We're different, I whispered, voice broken but ecstatic. Her hands framed my face, eyes glimmering amber and fire. No, Kanani. We're new. We're us. And in that moment, I knew it was true. We had defied centuries. We had merged fire and blood, human and ancient, passion and eternity. We were no longer just vampire and human. We were something impossible. And together, nothing, not council, not enemies, not time itself, could touch us. Chapter 18. The First Trial. Guinevere's POV. The island trembled the moment we stepped outside. Not from the wind. Not from the waves. From us. Kanani's hand in mine felt like a lightning rod, drawing the power we now shared, thrumming with life, with fire, with something older than both of us. Every pulse of her heart, every shimmer of her energy, reverberated through me, calling forth a force I had never wielded even in a millennium of existence. And then I saw them. Shadows moving through the forest, figures that should not exist. Vampires older than memory, drawn to the energy we had unleashed, curious, hungry, and dangerous. Their eyes glimmered red and gold, predatory, calculating. You feel that? I whispered to Kanani, voice low. They've sensed it, us. Her eyes, wide but fierce, met mine. I know. Let them come. The first one leapt from the shadows, impossibly fast, claws extended, fangs glinting in the early light. I caught her movement instantly. Kanani's power surged, Not just around her, but through her, through me, through us. I felt it coiling like molten metal, raw and ready, and I responded with instinct honed over 1,000 years. The attack came, claws scraping, fangs bared, but we were not the same as before. Kanani's hands flared with energy, a shockwave of power radiating outward. The vampire slammed into it, thrown back like ragdoll, hissing, eyes wide with fear and awe. I moved with her, perfectly in sync, our bodies flowing together, our hybrid power a force no one could touch. I lashed out with strength I hadn't known I possessed, pulling her energy into mine, a fusion of fire and blood and fury. More came. A dozen, 20, the forest erupted with battle. Kanani's roar, human, animal, and something beyond rang out. Energy lanced from her hands, wrapping around our enemies like chains of fire, binding, breaking, consuming. I fought beside her, my claws slicing, fangs flashing, but our true weapon was our bond. Every glance, every touch, every heartbeat shared ignited a reaction in our enemies. They could not comprehend the force of a vampire and human merged, ancient power melted and reborn. We moved as one, unstoppable, terrifying. Shadows tore themselves apart in fear and confusion. The island itself seemed to pulse with our energy, wind whipping, waves crashing, the earth quaking beneath the fury of what we had become. Finally, the last of them fell, scattering into the forest, battered, broken, but alive. They knew better than to return, not yet. Breathing heavily, I turned to Kanani. Her hair clung to her face, her eyes blazing amber and violet in the afterglow. She laughed, low, exhausted, exhilarated. "We did it," she said, voice trembling. "We're unstoppable." I smiled, a predator's grin softened by love. "We are new. We are fire and blood. And no one, no thing, can touch us now." She pressed herself against me, energy still thrumming between us, our bond glowing, pulsing, alive. "Then let's show the world what we are," she whispered. And in that moment, I knew she was right. Not just a vampire. Not just human. Not just a hybrid. Something impossible, something uncontrollable, something eternal. Together, we were a storm no one would survive. Chapter 19, After the Storm. Kanani's POV. The forest was quiet. The taste of ozone, of scorched earth, and lingering power hung in the air. I leaned against Guinevere, feeling her pulse, her heat, her entire being thrumming against mine. Every fight, every claw, every surge of power had left traces on us, adrenaline, blood, energy, desire, and now it all coiled inside, waiting for release. She brushed a finger along my jaw, rough from battle, but tender in the way that only she could be. I shivered, leaning into her touch. "You're terrifying," I whispered. Her laugh was low, husky, vibrating through my chest. "Only for you, Kanani. Only for you." I felt her hands wander, tracing the line of my spine, the curve of my neck, the warmth of my skin. Every touch was electric, feeding not just desire, but the power between us, our hybrid energy sparking with each brush. I tilted my head, offering her access again, not just to my body, but to my fire, my strength, my soul. She responded instantly, lips claiming mine, fangs brushing, teeth grazing, and I gasped, melting into her in ways I never imagined possible. Every kiss, every moan, every shiver of pleasure and heat was a reinforcement of our bond, deeper, stronger, more alive. The battles outside had been intense, but the ones inside us, the hunger, the desire, the shared power, were uncontainable. Guinevere pulled me close, her body melding with mine, every muscle, every curve, every heartbeat in perfect harmony with my own. She whispered against my lips, "With every fight, every touch, we grow stronger." "I can feel it, Kanani. We are unstoppable." I arched into her, our breaths mingling, the fire within us igniting in ways that were almost dangerous. She guided me, matched me, and in each motion, in each shudder and gasp, I felt the melding of our powers, human and vampire, ancient and mortal, fire and blood, creating something new and overwhelming. The cabin walls, the island itself, seemed to pulse with our energy. Every touch sparked electricity, every moan unleashed fire. Nothing could stop us. Nothing could touch us. We were ours fully, absolutely, explosively. When at last we collapsed, spent, trembling, and intertwined, I felt her pulse against mine, our power still radiating, still glowing, still alive. Together, I whispered, breathless. Always, she replied. And with that, I knew, not just in heart, not just in body, but in blood and soul, that we were eternal. And nothing in the world would ever make us separate again. Chapter 20. The Council's Reckoning. Guinevere's POV. The morning was still, but it carried the weight of 100 centuries. I could feel it before the council even arrived, the tension, the judgment, the invisible weight pressing down like stone on my chest. Kanani was at my side, radiant, untamed, unafraid. She had grown in power overnight, her energy now woven with mine, a fire and storm that radiated with every breath, every heartbeat. The council appeared as they always did, 8 figures, taller than shadows, older than the forests, their eyes sharp and unyielding. Their presence was a pressure, a force, but this time, they hesitated. One stepped forward, voice low and measured. Guinevere Adana Darien. Kanani Makani. You have claimed what was never meant to be claimed. You have fused mortal and immortal, human and vampire, ancient power, and something beyond our comprehension. I did not flinch. I did not bow. I did not yield. I felt Kanani's hand on mine, strong, alive, and together we radiated power that filled the clearing like a storm on the sea. We did, I said, voice steady, dark, certain. And we will not unmake it. Whispers passed among them, like wind over frozen graves. Shock. Confusion. Fear. Impossible, one hissed. This cannot endure. It is dangerous. It destabilizes centuries of balance. Kanani stepped forward then, her hair catching the light like flames, eyes glowing with our shared power. It is real. We are real. And we will not be undone. I let her words settle like fire into the council's bones. I felt the energy ripple outward from us, a tangible force of blood and life and fire, impossible to ignore, impossible to challenge. The eldest finally spoke, voice heavy, but tinged with something like reluctant respect. So, it appears, this cannot be undone. You are stronger together than we could have anticipated. I held Kanani closer. Her pulse thrummed in sync with mine, our energy a tether of fire and eternity, our bond unbreakable. We are not asking for your acceptance, I said softly. We are telling you, this is our existence. And nothing will take it from us. The council fell silent, their whispers fading into the forest. The tension remained, but the threat had changed, no longer judgment, no longer decree. They had witnessed our power. They had seen what we had become. And though they would never approve, they had no choice but to accept that we were unstoppable. Kanani leaned against me, voice low and fierce. They can't touch us now. Not ever. I smiled, the predator's grin softened by desire, by love, by fire. And they won't. Not while I breathe. Not while we're together. The island held its breath with us, alive with the pulse of our hybrid energy. We were something new. Something impossible. And now, the world had no choice but to acknowledge it. Together, we turned from the council, hand in hand, hearts blazing, power roaring through our veins. We were the storm. We were fire. And nothing could ever extinguish us. Epilogue, Inferno of Desire. Kanani's POV. The night draped over the island like silk, velvet, and dangerous. The air still hummed from the chaos we had wrought, our energy pulsing between us, thick, alive, almost sentient. Guinevere pressed against me, fangs grazing my shoulder, teeth teasing the skin there. I shivered, melting against her, heat spiraling from the center of my chest straight to my core. Every touch, every brush of her hands, every heartbeat against mine, sent sparks flying, and I craved more. You feel that, Kanani? She whispered, lips brushing my ear, voice low, velvety, commanding. Every battle, every fight, every drop of blood, it's ours now. Every pulse of power between us, it's fire. I moaned softly, tilting my head to give her better access, letting her hands roam, letting her teeth graze, letting her claim me with passion and power, not domination, but the fusion of everything we are. She pressed her body to mine fully, and I felt it, the storm inside her, inside me, inside us. It was more than hunger, more than desire, more than ancient power. It was a wildfire, a force that could consume or create, and it wrapped us in its heat. I ran my fingers through her hair, tugging gently, leaning into the kiss that grew into something more, something raw and infinite. Our breaths mingled, our energy collided, and the air around us shimmered, thrummed, almost afraid of the intensity it held. Her hands traced the lines of my body with reverence and hunger. Mine mirrored hers. Every touch deepened the bond, every shiver, every gasp, every stolen moan a thread weaving our souls tighter together. When we finally broke, gasping, shivering, eyes aflame, I could feel it, the power, the love, the unbreakable fusion of our being. Guinevere's lips hovered near mine, a smirk playing on the edges, dark and seductive. "You are mine. And I am yours." I pressed my forehead to hers, just breathing her in. Then she lifts her head and kissed my temple, the heat of her fangs against me, the strength of her centuries, and I knew this was eternal. "Forever, Guinevere. All of me for you." We kissed again, slower this time, letting the fire simmer and build, the intensity of every battle, every struggle, every heartbeat transforming into something tender, something terrifying, something ours. Her hands trailed down my arms, along my sides, lingering on every curve. Every touch, every glance, every shiver of our shared power was a reminder of the storms we had weathered, the battles we had fought, and the love we had claimed. We pressed together, lips colliding in a kiss that was more than desire. It was power, it was eternity, it was the very essence of who we had become. The air around us shimmered, alive with our bond. The island sighed around us, waves crashing like applause, the cliffs echoing with our shared energy. We were a storm. We were fire. We were indestructible. And as the first stars began to blink above, a whisper of wind carried something more, a promise, a threat, a future unknown, but undeniably ours. And somewhere, beyond the horizon, a shadow stirred, ancient, hungry, and unbroken, waiting for the storm that Guinevere and Kanani had just begun to unleash. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.